And in health news, a group of people who suffered after taking the COVID vaccines are suing President Biden and some of his top officials over censorship. The plaintiffs say the officials violated their rights to free speech and peaceful assembly by pressuring social media companies to crack down on people like them who shared their experience after receiving the vaccines. Here to discuss this case is New Civil Liberties Alliance's litigation counsel, Casey Norman, whom I spoke with earlier today. Casey, the plaintiffs that New Civil Liberties are representing in this case are calling it a landmark lawsuit. Could you explain the suit for us and the significance of it?
Sure. So we are representing 6 individuals across the country who are all very heavily censored on social media platforms, from Facebook to TikTok to Twitter, all over the place, for speaking just about their personal experiences after they took the COVID vaccine. And, this includes posting photos. For instance, one of our plaintiffs, Mr. Ernest Ramirez, he lost his son, actually, a few days after taking the COVID vaccine. And as just one of many examples, he posted a photo of his son on Twitter and on Facebook, and a photo of himself at his son's funeral. And this was labeled as false information and flagged on Facebook, and it was removed entirely on Twitter. So just to give you a sense of the kind of speech that we're seeing censored here, each of the 6 plaintiffs have dealt with this form of censorship.
Wow, that must be devastating. What kind of response have you had from the social media companies?
So that's a great question. We're actually, the defendants in this case are government officials and agencies. We're not going after the social media companies themselves. And the reason for that is we typically, in the Constitution under the First Amendment, it applies only to government actors and not private entities. And we have seen in some previous lawsuits, including Missouri v. Biden, through the discovery and the facts produced in that case and others, that there's a high level of collusion, pressure, coercion from these government entities, telling the social media companies to censor this type of information or to flag it as dangerous or lies, inappropriate content, that kind of thing. We have many, many screenshots of just a variety of posts, tweets, throughout the platforms. We have people posting even in private support groups. For instance, on Facebook, we have a number of private support groups for those who are injured after taking the COVID vaccine. And they screen everybody before they're allowed to enter. And all the members of the groups are, those who've suffered in similar ways. And even in these private groups, we'll see them posting, advice, medical advice, what's worked for them after they've suffered these injuries. Even these types of posts are being removed. The private groups are shut down, frozen. Anything that involves the COVID vaccine or that even questions the government policies, we're seeing that kind of thing being censored.
And what outcomes are you seeking? What are you hoping will come of this case?
So we are seeking in this lawsuit declaratory and injunctive relief. And that means we basically want the courts to inform the governments and all the officials and agencies involved in this censorship that their conduct is unconstitutional, it's unlawful, they need to stop. So that's what we're seeking. We're hoping to stop this in the future and to just draw attention on the misconduct in the first place, and then have a formal order instructing them to stop.
Absolutely. And is there anything else that you would like our viewers to know about this case?
Yeah, so this case, it raises all kinds of issues, but I think the first one is, and I think the way that we can distinguish this case from prior lawsuits like Missouri v. Biden or Chengizi, in this case, we have 6 individuals talking about their lives. They're not advocating any political policy. They're not anti-vaxxers. They range across the full political spectrum, from Democrat, Republican, moderate. And all of these individuals are being censored. And I think everybody in this entire country should be really alarmed and disturbed by what we're seeing here, and just the dogged censorship enterprise that continues to be executed to this day. I'm receiving further screenshots from these clients with further instances of censorship that are still continuing. And I think that's really the way to distinguish this case, even more so from some of what we've seen in the recent past. And I would say that is one of many, many alarming things that we're seeing in this. And I really hope that people will pay attention.
Thank you so much, Casey Norman. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.